folks. So we're back to wash the fleece today, and I just thought I'd show you my typical setup. It's not terribly complicated. I wash fleece here in our deep sink in a 3-gallon pot that I used to use for brewing beer. Our tap water comes out our hot tap water comes out at about 120 degrees, and that is hot enough for most of my purposes. So we'll fill up this pot, and I'll kind of talk you through this while it's filling. So like I said, the tap water is about 120 degrees, maybe a little bit less than that, but lanolin typically melts between 100 and 107 degrees, and so that usually suits my purpose. If you have a really high grease fleece or a really waxy grease on your fleece, it may take the temperatures a little hotter than that. You could either do it on the stove top, or you could heat additional water on the stove top and add it to your washing pot. I've got about probably 12 ounces of fleece here from purchased fleece, and we've got that all standing by and ready to go. It looks like a lot of volume, but it's going to fit easily in the pot because while this takes up a lot of space right now, there's so much of that is air. This compresses really quite a bit, and we don't want to compress it too much in the pot because we want to get good penetration of the wash water. But all of this fleece should easily fit in the pot with plenty of room for the water to swish around. You do want to make sure, however, that you're not packing way too much wool into your washing vessel because it will impede the ability for the water to really get in there and lift all of the dirt and grease off of the fiber surfaces. So do be careful not to go overboard with how much fleece you're packing into your washing vessel. It will reduce the efficiency of your washing process and make it necessary for you to probably do additional rinses, maybe even additional washes. So you don't want to do that. So the pot's almost full here. Just give it another second. We'll talk about my washing solution. So I just use Dawn dish detergent. It's been a really cost-effective solution for me. It works really well. Some earlier formulations had enzymes in them that you don't really want to have in contact with your fleece because it will start to, I think, digest some of the protein fibers. But as far as I can tell from the ingredients list, Dawn no longer does that, at least not in this formulation. But it is fairly concentrated, so you want to be careful that you're not using too much detergent in your wash water because it's just going to cause unnecessary sudsing and require more rinsing. So I have found, I usually don't measure out my soap. I just kind of know how much to add. But for the purposes of this demonstration, I will show you approximately how much soap I use. So for this concentrated Dawn, I usually use what comes out to probably about 1/8 of a cup of soap. And this Jacob fleece that we're working on right now really isn't a very high grease fleece. So it's not going to require probably a whole lot of soap or a whole lot of rinsing to get this pretty clean pretty quick. I do swish this around a little bit just to ensure that the soap all dissolves in the wash water. But you don't want to agitate it to the point where you get a lot of suds because that's counterproductive. Alright, so then we've got our lovely fleece here. And I'm just going to kind of gently start lowering it into the water. Gently pressing it down to submerge it. This amount of contact with the fleece and the water isn't probably going to cause you any felting problems. You just don't want to actively be agitating it. So, I'll dry my hands quick here. Alright, so now we've got our wool in the pot. We can see that it's already starting to release the lanolin and dirt and everything into the wash water. So we're going to cover this to retain the heat in the pot. And we're going to leave it for at least 20 minutes. We'll come back and take a look and pour off the dirty wash water. Move on to rinsing. And we're back. It is about 20 minutes later. back to get our first wash wrapped up and pour off this wash water and go into our first rinse. You can see that there's cloudiness, discoloration to the water. That's your lanolin, that's your suint, dirt, other grime, etc., etc. We're going to pour that off actually to a bucket today because I'm going to preserve that wash water with all its organic goodies in it for my rose bushes. They really like that. Oops. Just going to gently hold back the bowl and let the water flow out from around it. Compress it a little bit. Shouldn't cause any tilting activity as long as you're not actively rubbing it against itself or anything. Alright, so back in the sink. I'm going to gather the wool up. Give it a little squeeze to get more of the dirty water out. Just set our wool aside in the lid. Get our water nice and hot again. And we're going to fill up this pot with hot water, same temperature as our wash, to get a nice hot rinse on this. And again, we're going to set it aside for about 20 minutes to give the water time to penetrate and lift off some of the remaining dirt and grease off of the wool before we pour it off. So I'll get that going and put the wool back in here, cover it back up, and we'll come back in another 20 minutes. And we're back to check on our wool after it's rinsed. Bring you in here for a closer look. So water's still nice and warm. We've got a little bit of cloudiness to it still, a little bit of discoloration. So we're going to pour this off and run another rinse for it and do the very same thing. This time I'm okay with pouring off the water into the deep sink. Considerably less dirt and grease in it from the wash water. Side. We can tell that it's already looking a lot fluffier. The water is nice and warm. So we're going to pour another rinse bath for it, submerge it again for another 20 minutes. Starting to see a pattern here. And then we'll be back to check on it, see if that's our last rinse or if we need one more. And we're back to check on our wool. I've already opened it up. And actually I did another rinse while you guys were away. So the last rinse, the water was still slightly cloudy. So I went ahead and poured that off. Do another quick rinse on this. Generally the last one I wouldn't wait as long. I would just run another bath, pop it in, swish it around a little bit to kind of get rid of any last traces. Make sure that the water looks clear on this final rinse. So let's go take a look. So the water around the fleece here is looking very clear. I don't see any haziness or discoloration, so that's indicating to me that we've got this wool pretty clean. So I'm going to I'm going to pour this off. Gather this wool up, give it a little squeeze. So I'll let you take a look at this real quick. So this is what my wool looks like coming out of the wash. We can tell it's much lighter textured. I don't know if you can tell from just looking, but touching it, I can tell it's much lighter textured without any of the grease on it. There's still a little bit of vegetable debris in here, but we'll deal with that in our next stage. All right, so we're going to take this over to the washing machine and spin it out. So here we are at the washing machine. I have just popped our fleece in the basket here. We've got it set on the spin cycle. And away it goes. Alright, spin cycle is complete. Grab our fleece. For the last little bit. And so here we've got our washed fleece with most of the water removed. I'll probably spread this out a little bit on its towel and we'll just set it in a place where it gets good airflow so that it will dry quickly. And then we'll be ready for further stages in processing.